Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are Propelled by Plants.
Today we bring to you episode 402, Fast, Easy, Cheap, Vegan with Sam Turnbull.
I love that name. In this episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we talk with Sam Turnbull about how to be a fast, easy, cheap, and healthy vegan. Her new book has easy recipes that don't take very long and all cost under $10. We made some of these dishes ourselves, and we do concur that it is cheap, it is fast, and it is easy. And even when we've used organic ingredients, a lot of the times it's still under $10. There's plenty of tips for new and seasoned chefs in this episode, and you're going to laugh at Adam throwing me under the bus a little bit here, too.
I didn't.
This show will inspire you to get out and make some new delicious food.
Sam Turnbull is the creator of the brand and blog, It Doesn't Taste Like Chicken. As a face for the vegan community, Sam and her recipes have been featured on TV and radio and in numerous magazines and newspapers. She's the author of the incredibly popular cookbook Fuss Free Vegan, published in 2017, and now her new book, Fast, Easy, Cheap Vegan, hits bookshelves today. Great recipes here. Share it out. We hope you enjoy this one.
Research is all the buzz with weighted blankets right now, perfect for insomniacs with racing minds, sleepers who toss and turn, those who wake up many times at night, and those stressful days or anxiety that keep coming up for you. Check it out at planttrainers.com/hush, Hush, and use the coupon code PLANTTRAINERS, all one word, all capitals, PLANTTRAINERS at checkout.
And now for a moment of gratitude.
Today, I'm just grateful for my family and our health.
I'm grateful for the support of all those around us for everything that we do. So thank you all so very much.
Sam Turnbull, thank you so much for joining us on the Plant Trainers Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. So great to see you guys again.
It's good to see you back. You haven't been with us since 235, and we're in the 400s now. So that was a long time ago.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. And congratulations on your book. And we're going to talk about that soon. Do you have a moment of gratitude to share with us first?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm just really, really thankful that all my friends and family have been safe during this crazy time, this pandemic. I'm definitely the most thankful for that right now.
Yeah, it's amazing how, at first nobody really knew anybody who had it. And then a whole year goes by and now we know so many people who have. So it's just, for everybody's family to be happy and safe. That's huge. And of course, our hearts go out to those who have lost people or who are struggling with it now or those post symptoms. But I'm so happy that you guys are awesome and you're great and lots of good things happening in the last couple of years too.
Yeah, definitely lots of hard times, but I'm fortunate enough that I get to do my job from home. So I get to still maintain my passion, which is really nice. I'm lucky that way for sure.
I loved your first book. And then when I saw that you had a new book coming out, I'm like, of course, you've got to come back. We've got to talk about comfort food. We've got to talk about how to make it easy, how to make it quick. And then when I saw the title of your book, it was Fast, Easy, Cheap, Vegan. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if we don't have the vegan at the end, that could be taken a whole other way.
I'll tell you a secret. Originally, we were considering having my face on the cover of the book just to match my first book, which has my face on it. But then we realized it would look kind of funny if my face was on it with the words "fast, easy, cheap, vegan" above it.
Yeah, because maybe it was like
of the book.
a new dating clencher or something like that.
But you got your face on the back of the book, so at least we know that you're still there.
Right.
You're still there. And as we continue through these tough times, it's always a challenge for people at home to find foods that are comforting, especially as we come out of the winter and we're moving into the spring. And comfort foods is always a challenge, but we want to keep it healthy and easy. And that's something that you definitely talk about in this book and share with us. So tell us a little bit more about the importance of comfort foods and how to keep them healthy.
Yeah, I love comfort food. I mean, I grew up, eating pastas and pizzas and soups and salads and sandwiches, although I guess the salad's not really considered a comfort food, but sometimes they are when you make them like
it depends
really
on the sauce,
delicious.
on the dressing. Yeah.
Like a good Caesar salad, to me, that's a comfort food. But yeah, I just love making all of those foods and making them really approachable for everyone and making them really easy. And one of the things for me too is comfort food is partly comforting when it's easy to make. If I have to struggle in the kitchen for a really long time and slave over the stove and all that stuff, then that doesn't really feel as satisfying to me. You could order in if you want, but that's expensive and often really bad for you. So I like to make my comfort foods at home with just really simple ingredients that we can all have access to really easily. And then, yeah, of course, they're a lot healthier when you make them at home. You can even make them oil-free if you prefer.
Yeah, you definitely can, because some of you, not many actually in this book have a lot of oil, a little bit of butter, a little bit of oil, but that's really, I think it adds a little bit of depth, but it also keeps things from burning. So if you're used to using oil or vegetable broth and you know how to do that, it's a simple switch. We never cook with oil or butter. We do have some in the house for specific things that come up sometimes. So when I did make your recipe last night, I made what did I say it was called? Better butter cauliflower, which is like a butter chicken kind of cauliflower dish. I did use that tablespoon of butter only because I wanted to do it justice, because I knew we were having you on the show today, but that's not something that I would normally do. But yeah, it was delicious and great. And I know next time I'm not going to use the butter, and I know it's going to end up just as delicious. So I think that a lot of people think about comfort food and think, oh, carbohydrates or fat, or it's not going to be healthy for me. But that's not true, especially when you're making everything from scratch.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can play around and it's really just about flavor and texture, I think. To make food taste really good, you just need a good combination of flavors, spices, fresh herbs, veggies, whatever you want, and good texture. And so I think a lot of comfort food is crispy or chewy or really satiating in some way. And so if you can just pair those together, it doesn't necessarily have to be greasy, fatty, bad for you. It can get all those flavor notes and be just as good for you. And then it's nice too, because then you wake up in the morning feeling great after having a binge of food, which I like to do too. I mean, I had loaded cheesy fries the other night, but I made my homemade cashew cheese and my cashew nacho cheese, which that recipe's on my blog. And I made that and drizzled all over my air fryer fries, and I threw some beans on there. And so to me, it felt like total junk food, but really it was completely oil-free and healthy, actually.
That's like a Sunday football day at our house.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to ask this question, but I was listening to a conversation on Clubhouse the other day, and they were talking about vegan cheeses, and somebody asked how you make a cheese without using cashew because they don't like cashews. So how would you answer that question?
Oh, I have a ton of recipes. It depends on the kind of cheese you want. I think I even have some, I do have some recipes in this book for a cheesy sauce as well. So I have a really great, it's my mac and cheese mix. And so it's when you get the boxed mac and cheese and you get that little packet of powder. So I made my own version of that, which is really great because not only can you just have it on the pantry, on your shelf, ready to go whenever it's cravings strike, but you can use it to make a mac and cheese, but you can also just use it to make a nacho sauce, and that's completely nut-free as well. And then, I have other options as well. If you want a firmer cheese, I have one on my blog that's made from sunflowers, so you can definitely play around and make all sorts of different delicious things. You don't always need nuts to make everything.
Awesome. So there's a lot of people in our audience who are seasoned vets and have been vegan for a while, but there's also some that are brand new to this lifestyle, just coming into plant-based nutrition, the lifestyle, and they might be overwhelmed with preparing all these foods. So maybe you can talk to them a little bit about how to keep things easy in the kitchen and what tips you might have for preparing these plant-based dishes.
Yeah, definitely. I'm all about easy cooking. I'm the kind of person who starts cooking when I'm already hungry. So it has to be quick. It has to be easy. I have to get it done because I'm oh my God, I'm going to die. I need to eat something immediately. I don't know why I do this to myself every single night, but that's what I do. But yeah, so I just love making food really simple. Delicious food doesn't have to be complicated. It isn't necessarily going to taste better if you use more ingredients or use fancier ingredients. And so I just like to make things really, really easy. And so a lot of my recipes, are one pot recipes, or you just make up this quick sauce in 5 minutes. In this cookbook, I have a lot of mixes, just like the mac and cheese mix, where you just shake up a jar of mix and then it's ready to go when you want to make something. But yeah, keeping it simple and easy is just really about using simple ingredients and making sure the flavor combinations are are good. And I did all that work for you. So you don't have to worry about that part.
Well, that's great, because I think that was my biggest problem when I first started cooking. I was always a sous chef. When I first met Adam, he was the chef. So I was great at making sandwiches and I was great at making salads, but I always cut the vegetables, I always prepared everything, and then he would throw the flavors together. And it was really hard for me to know, is it enough salt, or am I putting too much thyme? That's the worst for us. If we have too much thyme, or there's a few spices where we know we need a hint of it to make it work together. But if it's like the predominant flavor, neither of us like it. So I was always like too heavy-handed with the things we didn't like and not heavy-handed enough with the things that we did like. But he somehow knew how to put flavors together, but I didn't. Do you have any advice for people who are trying to throw things together quick, and how much time do you put into something, or, rosemary, those more potent flavors?
Yeah, definitely. So when you're Adam, he is comfortable with flavor, and he can add a little bit here and there and taste it as he goes. And that's great. And if you're someone who can do that, that's wonderful. But for a lot of us, we might not be as confident in flavor and how to balance all of those herbs and spices. So for those people especially, I always recommend you follow a recipe anyways, but for those people especially, I just recommend you measure it to a T. You use that tablespoon and that teaspoon and that half teaspoon and just follow recipes exactly, because those recipes are generally going to be designed by someone who's really confident in flavor. And so that's the best way you're going to have success. And then if you make the recipe and you go, actually, you know what, this has a little bit too much time, write a little note, whether it's in your cookbook or on a blog or wherever you are saving your recipe. I do that all the time on cookbooks. I say, this one, I reduce the salt here, add more of this. And then, for next time how to make it even better.
Yeah, that's a great idea, because then you forget. You've switched the recipe. You made it a little bit different last time, and then you don't remember what you did, or you don't remember what you didn't like. So, you go and you spend $20, $30 on a new cookbook, and it looks beautiful, and it's all shiny, and you don't want to ruin it up. So, I'm a sticky note person, so you could always use sticky notes, but just take your pen and write the date and write what you want to do different for next time. And if that works, you make a little happy face next to it. And if it doesn't work, you cross it out and you try again next time. Because although these recipes have been developed by experts, for general deliciousness, people have their own likes and dislikes as well. So all you need to do is tweak it. You don't have to throw the recipe out.
Absolutely. Just like you were saying, by reducing the vegan butter in the recipe or omitting it, you can just say next time, no need to add, it doesn't need, you don't need it for your taste preferences. That's perfect.
Exactly.
Make it your own.
Exactly. And then I always say, once you've made a recipe once and you like it, the next time you make it, you should double it, especially if it's something that's freezable.
Oh, yeah. Good idea. Definitely good idea. And that's very time saving, because then you'll have it ready to go later on.
Exactly. So the other thing that I really liked about the book is that you had a lot of recipes that were inexpensive, that were $10 or less. So you're feeding 2 to 4 people, or 2 people for 2 meals, basically 4 servings for $10 or less. And I love that, especially today, because people are in harder times. People their work has been cut down, or maybe they lost their job, or maybe they don't know what the future is going to bring, or maybe they have health expenses that they didn't have before. So being able to cook a great meal that tastes amazing for under $10 is incredible. And I think a lot of people don't pay attention to how inexpensive or expensive some of the meals they're making actually are, because it's just kind of being bulked in. So what was your inspiration for wanting to make those cheaper meals?
Yeah, so every single recipe in this new cookbook costs $10 or less for the entire dish. And yeah, with that, I just really wanted to bust that misconception that vegan food has to be really expensive. I know when I first went vegan, I felt I had to go to the health food store and buy all these weird ingredients I'd never heard of. Or you can even go the other route where you're going to the freezer section and buying all of this really processed, fancy vegan food. I love that all that food is available to us and people should eat what they want. I think it's great that there's all those options, but it can be really expensive to buy fancy vegan cheeses, and you can buy one little square of vegan cheese at the grocery store for $10, $13. And I'm like, oh my God, you could make that for $3. So I love giving these options to people, because vegan food doesn't have to be expensive and it doesn't have to be out of reach. So if you're someone who's more on a budget, or you just don't want to blow your whole paycheck on, a box of chicken, then you can make food with really basic ingredients. So just things that are really cheap and affordable. beans and grains like rice and pasta and, veggies and fruit and things that you can just easily get at any grocery store and make these delicious meals. And it doesn't have to be expensive, and all $10 or less for the entire meal.
And rice and beans is definitely the way to go, right? Like that is the cheapest way to go. But then the way to really make
things vegan say.
But the way to make your brain and your taste buds really happy at the same time is about the sauce too.
The sauce or the spices? Yeah, I'm all about the spice cabinet. If you're going to invest anywhere in your kitchen, I suggest investing in spices. I always tell people, like, if you're wondering what to get for a Christmas present, ask your family to buy you like an entire rack of spices, because that'll do you well for years to come.
Because you could take the same rice and beans and completely change the flavor, right? It could be like a curry, or it could be like a Mexican. So there's so many different ways you could do it. It could be a breakfast, it could be a lunch, it could be a dinner. So by changing the sauce and the spice, it could really make a big difference in the dish.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You have a Korean, is it like Korean lentils or Korean rice and lentils in there? So what's the what's the flavor profile like that with that? What can I expect? Because that's the next thing I want to make.
Yes, that's like a Korean-inspired recipe that I call sweet Korean lentils. Now, lentils are not traditional in Korean cuisine at all, which is why I call it a Korean-inspired recipe. But basically, there's a really common dish in Korean food that is called bulgogi that I used to love. And I hope I'm saying that right. But I used to love that my pre-vegan days. And it was basically ground meat with all of these really nice spices and flavors. So soy sauce and chilies and garlic and ginger and all of these really delicious flavors. And so instead of using ground beef, I just use really cheap, affordable, available lentils, our good friend, and saute them up with the same kind of spices and seasonings. And it takes about 10 minutes to cook if you use red lentils. And it makes a really flavorful, really delicious dish that you can just put on some rice or some noodles, season or garnish with a little bit of cilantro or green onions if you like. And yeah, it's delish. I make it all the time because it takes 10 minutes.
Have you tried it in the Instant Pot?
I haven't. It's so fast. I feel like it would take almost longer in the Instant Pot just because it would take that much more time to heat
pressure.
up and then cool down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm sure you could, but I wouldn't put it on for like more than like a minute or something. It's really quick.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Red lentils run the risk of getting a bit mushy if you overcook them. So maybe if you're using like a bean or brown or a green lentil, then it might be okay in the Instant Pot.
Awesome.
I just wanted to pop in here to say that sleep is everything. And if you've heard about weighted blankets lately, you know what they can do. If you're someone with a lot of stress, if you're someone who's not sleeping throughout the night, if you're someone who needs to perform better throughout the day, check it out, because Hush blankets are reducing stress, lowering cortisol, increasing happiness. They are a tactile bliss. The blankets are covered with a super soft minky thread, which our son loves and refuses to go to sleep without at night. The inner blanket is made from a super comfortable microfiber material, and that means that you could sleep directly under it. So if you're someone who's too lazy to do laundry, don't worry, because they've got you covered. Check out planttrainers.com/hush, that's HUSH, and use the coupon code, all capitals, PLANTTRAINERS, one word, PLANTTRAINERS, at checkout for an amazing Plant Trainers discount. And now back to the show.
So what are some of your favorite dishes? Let's start with breakfast dishes. What's quick, easy, and cheap?
Oh, yeah. Breakfast. I love good breakfast. For me, I love toast. And I know that sounds so boring, but I call it a choose your own adventure. I have several of these recipes in this book where it's like inspired by those like stories we used to read as kids, where you get to go from here to here and you go through this store. So I have a different choose your own adventure recipes in this book. And one of them is called Toast is the Most, because I think people underrate toast. They just put peanut butter on it or just some butter and they call it a day. And I'm like, no, you can do so many delicious things with toast. So I have a guide on how to make really fancy toast with just simple ingredients. And so you can it can be next level. It doesn't have to be avocado toast. You can do a vegan cream cheese with strawberries and a little basil. You could do a hummus, which would be really nice with maybe some sun-dried tomatoes, and a fresh herb like cilantro would be really nice. So yeah, I really like playing with toasts.
Right now, people are freaking out because you said toast and they're not supposed to have bread, and they're all concerned about their carbohydrate intake. But if they're having some whole grain toast that is good quality once in a while, it's not such a bad thing to do. So I actually like the toast as an option.
I do.
Yeah.
I do too. And it's fast. And you could be, while your toast is toasting, you could be taking care of your drinks and filling up your water bottles for the day and getting the other parts ready. So that is super fast. And yeah, a loaf of bread can last you a week or two, right? So you're definitely
Absolutely
saving money there.
And it's cheap. Yeah, no, and I also love making a granola. You can buy granolas in the grocery store, but they're like crazy expensive. I don't even know why they're so expensive. But you can make granola, and traditionally it's generally made in the stove, and you kind of bake it for a long time, and that's fine too. But I have a recipe in this book where you just make it really quickly in the skillet, and it's so tasty. I love making this for breakfast and just having it with just a little bit of plant-based milk or a plant-based yogurt. But I also just make it and just snack on it because it's just so tasty. And that's like a healthier, less bread-like option.
What do you use to have the granola come together?
This one doesn't necessarily come into big clumps. It's a looser granola, but yeah, I really like that. It's great for sprinkling on everything.
Yeah, cool.
You haven't made granola in a long time.
Yeah, no, I haven't made it in a long time.
Maybe you need to.
Maybe I need to.
Okay, so what about a fast and easy lunch? And let's think of one lunch that people can make at home to be fast and easy if they're working from home, and then one meal that people can easily bring with to work if they're still going to work.
Oh, okay. One of my favorites is my no sweat sweet and spicy corn soup. So it's just a really delicious kind of creamy, spicy corn soup, which is really hearty and satisfying. And you can just use a bag of frozen corn to make it. So it's really easy to make. And so I love whipping that one up on kind of a colder day, which is really great. And that one, I guess, like I was thinking of that as my make it home option, but I guess that'd be really easy to transport as well. So that's a really nice option. And then I also like, for a more traditional kind of lunch of having a sandwich, I have a smoky and black bean sandwich. I think a lot of us are familiar with chickpea salad sandwich, which is delicious, one of my all-time faves, but people don't seem to expand out of the chickpea region for some reason. So when it comes to sandwiches, so I made this black bean sandwich, which is really great. And it's smoky and a little bit spicy as well. You can tell I like smoky and spicy, but of course you don't have to use spice if you don't want to. You can keep it more like kid friendly. There's definitely that option, but that's a really nice sandwich as well.
Yeah, that sounds delicious. And I know some people don't love that smoky taste, but you could just switch out the smoked paprika for regular paprika, and you could still get that
100%.
that layer of flavor in there, and it suits your flavors. And that's what I love about those kind of recipes too. Great. Okay. Yeah. So now we need...
Hang on. You mentioned the creamy soup, and some people, how do you cream the soup? Like, how do you make it creamy? Do you add milk to it? Because sometimes when people add cold milk to warm soup, it kind of curdles. So how do people avoid that?
So this one, I believe I add coconut milk to it. And sometimes when milks curdle in soups, it's because that they're not rich enough. So this one, coconut milk is generally quite rich, so that can definitely help. And you just want to stir it in last. Generally, when you add a milk to a soup, if you put it in too early and then you continue to boil the soup, that's when it can kind of separate. So you just kind of stir it in last and turn off the heat, and then it'll be good to go.
Oh, that totally makes sense, because I made a potato leek soup a couple of weeks ago, and I took some of the soup out and I said, I want to make this a little creamier. So I put some soy milk in and I mixed it up. But like by the time I had done it, so I put it in the bowl, and it was delicious. So I went and I poured soy milk right into the Instant Pot, but it must have still been so hot that by the time I served it to Adam and myself, I couldn't even eat it. It was just...
And now you know why I asked the question.
Well, there you go. I hope you found that helpful. But yeah, always follow the directions if there are directions and you're a less confident cook.
I love our podcast because I always learn something.
That's great.
All right. So as we head into dinner, what are some of your dinner favorites? I know we talked about a few already, but what are you going to come up with?
Yeah, I'm like my desert island food would definitely be noodles, any kind of noodle, any cuisine of noodle. I just love noodles. So I have a whole chapter of noodles on this book, but then I also have a whole chapter of mains. But I dedicated a whole chapter to noodles because not only is it my love, but they're really cheap, they're really fast to prepare, and so I love that. So one of my favorites is my 10 ingredient creamy basil gnocchi, which is really great. So gnocchi, I think most people kind of think of it as like this complicated, fancy thing. But these days you can buy pre-made gnocchis in your grocery store so easily. And the nice thing is that most of them are accidentally vegan. So they can either be in the dried pasta section or they can be in the freezer. My grocery store has both, and both places they're accidentally vegan, which is great. So you just want to make sure there's no egg. And it only takes like 10 minutes to cook the gnocchi, or like 5 minutes once you put it in dish. So it's a really fast, really great, chewy, like round little dumpling noodle kind of thing. I just love it. So that's one of my favorites for sure. But then if you're thinking more of a non-carby, non-noodly main, a really nice one as well is my 15-minute pineapple BBQ chickpeas. So I love treating chickpeas as if they were kind of a meat almost. They just work so well when you season them correctly. So this one's really easy to make. You just saute up some onions and garlic. And of course you could do an oil-free saute if you want with vegetable broth or water. And then you add your chickpeas and some BBQ sauce and some canned pineapple and some jalapenos. And it just makes it nice and spicy and smoky and delicious and saucy. And then you can put that on some rice or your favorite grain. And it's a really nice, really super quick dinner to make that we make all the time.
That sauce sounds like it would be amazing on tofu or on anything. It doesn't just it would just perfect.
Stick some tofu in there, and that's the great thing is that there might be a dish that and in general, right? Like you might look online and you might find a recipe and it might be for cauliflower. That doesn't mean that you can't add in a little bit of lentils or a little bit of chickpeas. But if you're making them dry, just add a little bit more water. Or if it's chickpeas. If it's chickpeas, doesn't mean that you can't add in broccoli or spinach or a vegetable in there also. You can get creative with things. And if you're trying to make sure that you get a certain amount of plant-based food groups in there, I'm talking about broccoli as a food group, then you definitely can, because you have the ability to play with it. And especially once you've made it once, any recipe, once you've made it once and you know what the flavor profile is and what the texture is and how saucy it is or how saucy it isn't, to double the sauce if you're putting in more vegetables into it or something like that. So we don't always have to, going back to what we said before, we don't always have to follow the recipe to the T. There's opportunity to make it what you want, whether you've been in the kitchen a long time or just a short time. You can make this work.
Yeah, but be careful, because if you don't have that much experience, sometimes those recipes don't go as the book plans.
So listen, I do make my own recipes, and I do have we do have our cookbooks too, but I am by no means a chef. I am just a mom who's getting things right somehow. And then once I get them right, I let other people know how I got them right. So it's not that I'm developing it. It's like I'm just
you're fantastic.
Getting through the day.
You're doing really well. Keep it up.
Getting through the day.
Keep it up.
Oh my gosh.
Which is why I recommend for people like you to always follow the recipe to a T first, and then if you want to adapt it the next time, then you can do that and be a little bit more confident.
Exactly. So what about some indulgences, that nighttime indulgence when you don't want to, we don't want to open up a bag of chips and sit on the couch with a bag of chips, but when we do want something a little bit sweet or a little bit rich, what do you recommend there?
Yeah. So if you're going for the sweet route, I have one of my favorite recipes in this book is called kitchen sink cookies, which I love because it's just a basic cookie base, and then you could basically add in any little flavors you want, and it doesn't have to be as simple as chocolate chips or raisins. You can add in leftover chips, you can add in pretzels, you can add in little candies, and whatever you have around. Coffee beans is one of my favorite add-ins, and so it could make it really fun and really creative. And I think kids really like that recipe as well, because you can really just put whatever you want in your own cookie.
Or cacao nibs or goji berries.
Yeah, healthier options as well, for sure. And then, I'm sure you know about banana ice cream. And so I have a whole section, which is called a choose your own adventure as well, for banana ice creams, where I think I have 30 different flavors or something that I've come up with. So that's a really fun little guide to walk you through how to make delicious, healthy, plant-based ice cream.
That banana and ice cream is so simple, and it's so underrated. I think more people need to figure it out because it's so easy to make, and you could flavor it in so many different ways. And I mean, you just said 30 different choose your own adventure ways to do it. I mean, I think the options are endless. It's amazing.
And we have it as meals sometimes too. So the kids will have it for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, not all on the same day. But, you know, we'll have it like on a hot summer's day, we'll have that for dinner, we'll have that for lunch. And when we were traveling a lot through Asia and living in Asia, there was always this like red bean everything through Asia. So when the kids started eating a lot of the banana and ice cream, especially when I make the chocolate flavor, I'll add in black beans. Or if I'm doing more of a strawberry vanilla flavor, I'll add in some like white kidney beans and stuff like that, just to get some beans in them, some different variety of fibers and stuff like that. So, and then you top it off with some of those superfoods, and it's for sure a meal in itself.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, no, I definitely have it for breakfast, especially in the summer. Yeah, sometimes. And it feels like you're being cheeky and having like ice cream for breakfast, but it's good for you. Yeah. So it's great.
Exactly. So one thing that was new in this cookbook that wasn't there last time was an additional character. There was a man next to you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that man who was very reluctant to take his photo for the book, but I made him, is my fiance, Adam.
Oh,
the love
Adam.
of my life. Yeah, I know. Best name, right?
Best name. So congratulations on that. So does he love your cooking? Let's put him on the spot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. When I met him, he was vegetarian, kind of on and off vegetarian. And, you know, he was definitely like, I'll never go vegan. Right. And I'm like, oh, no worries. No problem. I'm not going to pressure you to do anything you don't want to do. Do you want to watch a documentary though? And he was like, oh yeah, for sure. He went vegan in like 2 days. But yeah, he said a million times over that he knows that he would still be vegan even if I wasn't there, just from learning the information he learned, but it would have been really hard. So he's like, he feels really lucky that he gets to live with a chef and eat the best vegan food. Which
documentary did you have him watch?
I made him watch them all, but the one that really struck him the most was Cowspiracy. That's the one that lingers in his head over and over again. And those people who couldn't, go out into the community and were getting sick because of the manure in the air, and that stuff is so awful.
Yeah. So I love that, because there are a lot of people who write in or who write on social media, I could never date someone who's not vegan, or that won't happen long term, or I'm already dating or married to someone who isn't, and all I want is for them to go. And I think the approach that you took was, okay, that's fine. I respect that, but I'm going to respect that. I just want you to see where I'm coming from. So, hey, watch a documentary. Let's make the kitchen sink cookies and watch the documentary. And then he made his own decision. He wasn't forced into a decision. And I think that's a really great lesson, because that's the same question we get asked over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I always, people always ask me if I would, but when I was single, like if I would date someone who wasn't vegan. And I'm like, well, sure, I wasn't vegan until I knew the information. I wasn't vegan. I'm not going to judge someone for not being vegan yet because they haven't learned the information. So I've always just wanted to be with someone who is open-minded, who takes responsibility for their own actions, is, a loving, compassionate person. And Adam was all those things. And then once I showed him, what being vegan meant, it was just automatic for him. It's like, oh, well, that's me. That's what I want to do.
And I think that's looking for the quality instead of the actuality of the person, right? Like someone who, and then, because a relationship, you can start in a relationship, and like relationships are meant to be started to see, is it a yes or is it a no, right? And you need those other relationships to build on to get to the one that you're going to. So if you start to date someone who's not vegan and they're not open-minded and it's not okay, well then, that's an experience in your life and you move on. But
look,
if you learn how to just respect each other, then eventually things come around.
I don't know that he had a choice really, because he's living with a vegan chef. So it's either eat the food that she's making or he's on his own. And if you're living with a vegan chef, there's no way not to. I mean, it makes sense.
You're living with someone who will feed you forever. No, but I mean, there are people who, are respectful inside the home and when they're out for dinner with their partner. But then if they're going out with the boys or they're going out with the girls or whoever they are, when they're not with their partner, they may eat whatever they want to eat. They don't have to be 100% vegan kind of thing. So things work out the way that they should. And yeah, very, very cute. Yeah. We're happy for you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
So, Sam, the book is called Fast, Easy, Cheap, Vegan, and it comes out March 30th, which is the day this episode is out. So it's available probably everywhere. If people want to connect with you or pick up the book, where would you like them to go?
You can get the book from your favorite retailer. It's available worldwide. So whether you want to shop online or shop at your local bookstore, they should be able to have them or order them in if it's maybe a smaller bookstore that doesn't have stock. So definitely shop where you like to shop. And if you want to check me out, you can go to my blog, It Doesn't Taste Like Chicken, or follow me on any of my social medias at It Doesn't Taste Like Chicken. I will say hi.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We're going to link to that at the show notes at planttrainers.com. And we are so grateful for your time. We're grateful for your expertise. We're grateful for your better butter cauliflower. And
not chicken. It doesn't taste like chicken.
It doesn't taste like it does taste like chicken.
I know.
Always fun having you, Sam. Thanks so much for coming back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a real treat.
Thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers Podcast. We want to make sure that you subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platform.
We really appreciate the feedback we receive from you. Every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans, it really helps other people find us, just like you did.
Thanks so much to our patrons. To become a patron, visit us at patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference in the quality of the show.
And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram and Twitter. Our handle is at Plant Trainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at planttrainers.com for awesome recipes, a list of our services, and of course, our latest podcast.
We encourage you to email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so that we can help you improve your quality of life through nutrition and fitness.
So we hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time and have a healthy day. Or is that too corny?
It's a little cheesy.